Guys, make sure you're following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
It massively helps us out. Enjoy the episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Pitch Side.
Woo!
Thank you. I was waiting
Bring
for
the
someone
hype, baby.
Yes, so today we're both very excited for this episode because not only am I joined by my brilliant co-host Theo Baker, we have the founder of Player Care Group, which is obviously an increasingly hot topic in the world of football. Hugo Schechter, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
We're delighted to have you. So first off, by your definition, you are a person that works in player care. What is the definition of player care?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends so much on which club you're at. So, but kind of what I try and say is that everything that's not first football or medical around the first team. So it could be player relocations, players and their family. It could be match day operations. It could be traveling to the game. Problem solving. On call 24 hours for issues. So but every club does it so differently because it's not something that's been around for a long time. So it's kind of organically grown to fill the gaps. And so what we did at West Ham might look very different to what Man City do, to what Bournemouth do. So there isn't really a nailed on dictionary definition. So, but kind of the vague way to say it is everything that's not football or medical, really.
Would you say that is player liaison officer and like a player care officer, are they essentially the same thing, or is there a slight difference?
Well, so I think player liaison was like the old-fashioned term, like in the 90s, and it kind of, in my mind, refers to like one bloke who's kind of been at the club for 15, 20 years, who's kind of got like a sorter. He's a reactive guy who can solve problems, and our player care is more of a strategic, maybe department-wide with people with different skills and talents that's more proactive. So although, again, there's no like definitions of it because it's such a new industry, that's the way I would look at it. But then you have player liaisons who do more than head of player care somewhere else. And, so it's all over the place, really, is the answer,
So before obviously we get on to it, I think for the viewers watching at home, can you give us a bit of a background about yourself? Like where have you worked? The types of roles obviously you've had in the past as well? Yeah,
absolutely. So I started out coaching, and that's kind of where I thought my dream would be, the next sort of football manager. But turns out I'm a rubbish player. And when you've never played, no one ever wants to hear how you can improve them. So they're like, we've never played. So did my coaching badges, went out to uni in America and did coaching out there. And I thought that'd be my career path. And then kind of was looking at it, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to get anywhere decent. So I'd worked on like doing team operations and organising the uni teams. Like, everyone's done this like little bit of societies or something like that. In America, the uni stuff's quite big. Got my first job at a club called Indie 11, which is repping today. It's a
repping both, actually.
Yeah, repping both.
And we're repping the mugs too.
There we go.
We got gifted.
You can't even buy those, so those are gift. So Indie 11 was a second division team in the old NASL, now the USL, and it was amazing because it was a team that just popped out of nowhere. Like in America, that happens where you're just like, we're in the second division, and when I joined, we had one player, one manager.
One player?
Oh my God. Because it didn't exist before.
It's like Inter Miami, but like completely different.
It's
a good ratio as like a player care.
Yeah, it was really good.
One to one.
I was like,
really focus on one guy.
But we didn't have a training ground. We didn't have kit. We didn't have anything. Like there was like 10 staff. And our first game, we had 13,000 people at the game. So it's a big, it goes from zero to very big, very, very quickly.
Just this one guy running around pitch doing the whole thing.
Yeah, that's quintessential American culture, isn't it? Like
it is, yeah.
It explodes.
And so the fans were very passionate, but it was a very weird thing for me being a English person in football. And then you have people just go there for the day out. They don't really necessarily like soccer, but then you have the hardcore fans as well. But we signed a World Cup winner in Cleberson. Yeah. You remember of Man United?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was our like marquee signing. Yeah. So we had like guys who were school teachers, and then we had Cleberson, the World Cup winning.
How does that even happen though?
Well, it's a little
bit of hate. Okay. But even so, like for a second division team there has to be something a little bit more than money to attract someone of the like of Cleberson.
Because we had Raul at the New York Cosmos, Marcos Senna, who came from Villarreal, was also at the Cosmos, and so there were a couple of like these bigger names dotted in the league. But the idea was it was going to bring people into the games. But actually, I think without him, we would have. I think we would have sold out anyway because there was such a good hype and there was such a well-organised team. But to go from having literally nothing to we sold out every single game that season. We didn't win any games. But we sold out. So, success in different ways. Yeah. But to build a team literally from scratch, we're doing tryouts and like people were just showing up. We had people, some were ex-pros, some were from MLS. But to be a part of that was really, really cool. And I did that for like 9 months, then went to Southampton and then on to West Ham. So, you know, like, but in that role, you know, because there's 12 people in the whole club, you're doing everything. You know, I was doing team travel, I was doing contracts, I was doing
contracts as well.
Like kits, like buying the kit, washing the kit, cleaning out the training ground, like, because there was so few staff. And so I kind of look at it like that was part of my job. At Southampton then I was player liaison, so you're going to go, this is my remit. And then at West Ham, had to play a care even more like narrow because I had people helping me. So all throughout my career, you kind of specialise. And all the time, like, how can you possibly have enough to do? And then 6 months in, you're like, I have no time at all. But really, really cool to be part of a brand new team. Like, you know, like it doesn't happen in the UK really at that level.
It's interesting seeing that with Inter Miami now. Like they literally would have started exactly the same as you. Yeah. And I know they pretty much sell out most games at the moment. Like their fans have just absolutely taken to that club. Yeah. What sort of era, what years were you at Southampton then?
So I was 2014 to 2018. So I came in 3 months into Koeman's reign, and I left under Maurizio Pellegrino. So I did, cup final, Europe twice. Some.
And you say that position was a player liaison officer specifically? Yeah,
so that I was their first player liaison officer. They'd not had the role before. Okay. And I think like Ronald came in, and in Europe they talk about team manager a lot, and team manager is kind of similar to what player liaison is, but it's probably a more senior role. Probably manages kit and equipment, security, groundsman, that kind of stuff, which I didn't. But he was like, we need a team manager. And then I'd interned there during university in the academy, and they said, well, look, you know, would you be interested in coming back? So I got, you know, I say I got lucky. You make your own luck, of course. You have to be remembered and all of that. But went in there, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never dreamed of being a player liaison. I don't think anyone does dream of being a player liaison. But like, I was skeptical at first. I wasn't sure it was for me. Yeah. But went in there, and because they had no expectations, they'd just been promoted a year before. They weren't very high maintenance, and it allowed me to grow with the role and get my feet under the door. Feet under the door? Feet under the rug? Whatever, you know what I mean? And then get set up and get established, and we sort of grew together. So, it was a really, really cool opportunity. But to go from Indy 11, second division American game, you know, you got away game, you might have 12 fans, to then we played Old Trafford, and we beat Man United at Old Trafford with I think it was Tadic scored the winner, and he took his shirt off, if you remember that. And I'm like, this is mad, you know, like I was literally at like, Charlotte away or wherever it was before, ridiculous. And now you're at Old Trafford away. So there was a bit of sort of pinch yourself moment to begin with, for sure.
So you sort of at Southampton, you would say you sort of like created the role yourself. You'd come up with your own things, or would there be someone above you telling you certain things you have to do? Yeah. Or is it more of a case of just showing initiative and doing things you think is the right thing?
So I think it was a bit of both. So I report to the club secretary, and that's kind of normally where the player care person reports into, because that's a club-wide position, and it doesn't change manager to manager. Like most player care staff don't go with the manager. So they had a vision of it, and then Ronald had a vision of it, and the players had a vision of it, but it was a lot of like kind of working stuff out, what's more important and what are your priorities. And I think that's really hard in a role like that, where you've got 25 players, you've got probably 6 or 7 coaches. Everyone wants their thing done now. So in your mind, you've got to prioritize for them and for yourself, but also keep everyone happy and not disrespect people by saying, well, you're not playing, I'm not going to look after you. Because you know how quick football changes. There are players who I work with who've never played, and then suddenly, and one injury later, they're starting and they're talking about getting called up for England. So like, it's so you can never be like, well, I'm going to dismiss you. It's not my job ever to judge the players on my thoughts on their ability. My football thoughts are irrelevant, and so I just treat everybody the same and with respect.
Can you give us some examples of what kind of jobs you would have been doing for players at that time?
Yeah, so a lot of it was getting the sort of basics right, because it was just me by myself. So a lot of them, like, they didn't have their bills set up, or they would, some of them were not didn't have houses. Because I arrived in October, so you think the transfer window shuts end of August. So it had been sort of 3-4 months. We had players who were still in hotels or didn't have cars, and it was the basic stuff that it's quite hard. I think people are always like, well, why can't they sort it themselves? But I think, like, if you take, for example, Sadio Mane, for example, he arrived from Red Bull, but via Senegal. If you or I moved to Senegal age 19 and were told to find a car or find a house, we'd have no idea where to start. So to expect them to come and do the reverse here, I think is unfair. But also, we're not under the pressure that they're under, the visual scrutiny and all of that.
Exactly
So
that, yeah.
it really makes sense when you have someone local who knows has that knowledge, has the connections, and also stops them getting taken advantage of, because so many bad actors in this industry trying to get to these guys. And so a lot of my job is to try and stop that happening.
Sort of have to protect them from the people that are essentially after their money and their
yeah.
clout, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that a lot of the suppliers hate me, to be honest, because they would always say like, oh, well, we want a picture with the player in the car. I'm like, well, no, he's paying you. So that's a private transaction.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, the player loves it. And you're like, well, does he? Why would he want his car? Like, if we're playing badly and then a picture of him with a Lamborghini goes online, he's going to get battered. Yeah. So then I would say, right, we'll take it on the player's phone. And if he texts it to you, you can use it. How many times do you ever do that? 0.
Yeah.
0.
So, but the players are awkward because they don't like saying no to stuff. And so they just go, yeah, it's fine. But actually, that's where you need someone who's got a little bit of skin in the game to say, sorry, guys, like, if you're giving him a free car and that's the agreement, then great. But you're charging him. Yeah. So therefore, he's not going to take a picture with that, because that's worth X amount to the club, but also X amount to the player as well. So it's trying to be that person who can kind of take a step back and protect the guys and say no to them and say no for them even. Yeah.
So fast forwarding to West Ham.
Yeah.
What is different about that role to a player liaison officer?
So I was head of player care at West Ham. They wanted me to build a department for the first time. So I came from Southampton, where I was just by myself, and West Ham were like, we want to do this more seriously. So I had 2 assistants there, and so we recruited based on my weaknesses, or what I perceive my weaknesses to be. So I don't really speak languages much. Nice. And then we had a lady, Emma, who was very administrative. So she would be really good at policies, procedures, paperwork. Then we had a young lad, Barney, who was trilingual, straight out of uni, got on with the younger players really well. And so between the 3 of us, we were really, really we covered nearly everything. Yes. Rather than having 3 of me, who, obviously I've got some talents, but there's no point having 3 of me. So then that's where you start looking at those levels of player care and saying, it's not just a tick box, which a lot of clubs say, we've got it. Well, have you got someone who's really good at paperwork? Have you got someone who's really good at languages? Have you got someone who knows cars, who knows DIY, who's a good people person, good with families? There's so many different talents. Yeah. And so it's really just not a have we got it or have we not kind of thing.
I suppose you also need to be quite a trustworthy person as well. Yeah. Because if you're taking care of all these personal and private information stuff from all these players, they need to know that they can trust you. Yeah. How have you found that over the years? Have you found it easy to build trust with the players?
Yes and no. I mean, football's such a small world that when I was really amazed, actually, when I joined West Ham from Southampton, the players knew of me already.
Oh, really?
Not
That's
because
cool.
I'm famous, but they had called...
You have a reputation at that point.
But they'd message their national team teammates who they'd played with, or hey, what do you know about this guy? And so, I mean, hope the feedback was positive from them. So they came in and were like, yeah, Hugo's a good guy, you can trust him. But still, you have to prove it. Yeah. And it's about making those small incremental steps to begin with, because a changing room is a very closed environment. There are people that they trust in there and they can relax. But if someone walks into the room, into the dining room that they don't know, they'll change their, they go very 100%. Neutral, very you're almost in corporate mode. Yeah. So it takes a while to get that. And I remember my first day, I was sat in my office and I had the 2 assistants who were there before. They obviously had to trust the players. And a player walking in and going to talk to one of my assistants and was whispered away from me so I couldn't hear it. And you're like, okay, cool, it's fine. It's a private thing. It's day one. Yeah. It'll take that time. And it did take time. But I think trust is something that takes years to build up, and it can take a second to lose. Yeah. And I think that's really, really dangerous. Yeah, it's not mine. It's seen it on a poster somewhere. Don't attribute that to me. But it's true. And so I always think what could happen if this? And I got a great piece of advice from one of my mentors. Actually, it was Les Reed, who was the vice chairman of Southampton. He said, if I ever called you and said there's a big article coming on player care in the newspaper tomorrow, would you be excited or would you be worried? If you're worried, you're doing something wrong and you need to change what you're doing. If you're excited, that means you're doing good work and you're excited for people to know about it, then you're good. Yeah. And so I always kind of thought about that, with everything. So, I was always very strongly no commissions, no freebies and everything like that. And sometimes it's even to my detriment, I'd get sent wine at Christmas. You know how expensive it is to post wine back? Because it's fragile and it's heavy. And I would spend a fortune every Christmas being no, the suppliers, we use the suppliers because they're the best and because we have a good relationship with them, not because they're giving me free wine. I never wanted that assumption to be, well, I'm only doing it for something in my pocket. Yes. And so that's the kind of thing where, like, probably it didn't matter. Like, no player's going to be like, well, he's got a bottle of wine, he's corrupt.
Yeah.
But it's that, even that assumption, like, even the coffee mugs, like, if we got a coffee mug from an accounting firm, it would go in the bin or it would go back or whatever, because I don't want there to be a problem with that accounting firm. The player comes in and goes, oh, well, here we go. Not that you're getting a free coffee mug, but you're in with them, so this is why I'm getting screwed over, kind of thing. So,
we're going to keep ours, by the way.
Yeah. If you get screwed over by me, you can throw them away. All right, that's
Just thought I'd point that out.
Touching on, obviously when you're talking about taking care of like the minor things so the players can focus on essentially just playing and obviously having that public scrutiny that they're always under. I noticed on your website you have a like a 10-minute video all about does player care impact performance? Yeah. What's your opinion on that? Do you think it does?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think what we're trying to show to clubs now is this not just a thing where they're doing it to be nice to players. Like, that is probably the old-fashioned way, like, well, we want to be good people. Sure, we do. But actually, not only does it impact performance, where if you think about it, think of all the different people that are at the training ground, who are for the 3 hours a day they're at the training ground. Nutritionists, sports scientists, kit men, video analysts, all these people. If the player is in a hotel with his wife and kids and not sleeping because the kids are crying for 3 months, it undermines all the marginal gains you're trying to make at the pitch. So even if I can't say, well, he moved into a house 1 week earlier, he scored 10 more goals. I can't prove that, and I would never try and say that. But actually to say, look at what it could be undermining. It doesn't matter if they have white rice or brown rice on their plate if he's only sleeping 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
So to actually say these are things we've got to get right straight away, quickly, but also we don't want to do it so quickly that it's not right, and they're moving house 3 times in their first season. So it's all these different things, but bear in mind, some of these players have never been to England before. And so it's a cultural shift, like when you go on holiday, it takes a couple of days for you to get comfortable, where you know everything is. Yeah. And so to imagine having to do that with everybody knowing who you are, especially in Southampton where it's a smaller town, that the signings are more recognised, but in London you can kind of disappear a bit. Yeah. But actually say you've got to hit the ground running, you've got to be fully comfortable, and people expect performances, day one, especially in the January window where you might have a game the next day. Yeah. Look at Maitland-Niles, has gone to Roma.
He plays straight away.
Plays straight away. Yeah. Probably doesn't speak Italian, or I'd be surprised if he does.
I don't think he does,
So then that's a lot of pressure to play with new teammates. How do you even say pass the ball? How do you ever say, man on? And that was something we would do, is we'd teach them football-specific English first, because it's all great for them to be able to say, I'd like a lemonade. Yeah. But that doesn't help us day one on the pitch. So we'd have football-specific English lessons first, then we'd move on to the sort of day-to-day stuff. So it's trying to just think about things in a different way rather than just be like, well, he should be playing harder or this. Yeah, sure. But let's actually try and put the tools in place to make it easier for them.
Yeah.
Now, Reevie McGee. Okay, we're both fit and healthy. I've got the Ironman coming up, but the one thing I've always struggled with when training is the health side of it. I've always struggled...
The diet.
Exactly. I've always struggled mentally with the diet. And luckily for you lot and for us, our sponsor of today's episode is Noom. They are a psychological-based diet plan, essentially. Noom empowers you with the knowledge and psychology to help build habits,
which are essential to continue along a good diet.
Exactly.
Now, the beauty about Noom is that no food is off limits. You can basically keep eating all the foods that you enjoy on a regular basis, but it's in a more structured way that you get the benefits.
Yeah, mate, and literally, it doesn't take up hours of your day. Noom only asks for 10 minutes of your day to teach you about your eating habits and to make sure, you can check in on your progress. So what do we have for the viewers, Reevie?
We have a link for you, ladies and gentlemen. That is noom.com/pitch, and it takes you to a place where you can set up your trial with Noom and hopefully correct your eating habits in a way that is sustainable.
That's right. That is noom.com/pitch to set up your trial. Back on with the show.
So you spoke about performance as in on a physical standpoint. Do you think that the mental health side of football has had more light shed on it over the years? Have you witnessed the change in perception?
It's still really, really tough. And I don't think any sport has really nailed the mental health piece. I think it's so hard because you're pushing people to their limits in terms of performance. And I don't want to say there's not room for mental health, but you can't just say, well, I'm going to take 12 months off for my mental health. Well, you can, but then your contract's being ripped up. Yeah. You're probably not going to get another one. So it's really hard to balance that performance psychology. And I think that's where clubs put a lot of their resource in at the moment, is performance psychology, so pushing people to their max. But what I want to try and do is more counselling. So if you're just feeling a little bit low and you need someone to talk to who's independent, we can have that
like
resource for
pastoral
you,
care, right?
but also in their own language, because I mean, I speak basic French, but I wouldn't want to do therapy in French, but to have that where it's actually like there's the human and the athlete, and then they're not separate, but they're also both considered. And I think that's where we need to be. But I don't think we've got to a point where a player can go to a manager and say, I'm feeling I don't think I'm up for playing this weekend. Imagine it's the sort of relegation 6 points at the end of the season, and your star striker's like, I'm feeling a bit low, I don't think I can play. Yeah. The fans wouldn't be happy with that, the club wouldn't be happy with that. And I think that's a really tough part that sport in general, not just football, is in. Yeah. And to find that right solution, I don't know that anyone's got that, to be honest.
I feel like there's this tough balance going on right now between how much these players are getting paid to that mental health side. For example, with that, if a player, their star striker comes to a manager and goes, I don't feel mentally right to play this weekend, and the manager can turn around saying, we're paying you $100,000 a week, like you can't afford to be feeling like this. I feel like people do forget that no matter how much you get paid, you're still human, and everyone, and especially footballers as well, they're under more scrutiny than most people in the entire world. I think people forget that they are just human, and everyone does have these feelings, and I think that is a big thing that needs to be improved in clubs.
Yeah, but I think it's really tough because they have different problems, and that, I've worked with 140 players in my career. They none of them have to worry about who's going to put food on the table or how they're going to pay their rent, that a lot of people have to go through, but it's different problems. It doesn't make it any harder or easier. It is just different problems they have to deal with. And I think part of the discussion is like how much of the football money is almost blood money, where it's like you need to just push through it. Like you're getting paid a lot of money. If you don't want to do it, go work on a building site, go join the army, go be a teacher, go do any other job that probably, I don't say teachers have less stress because they're not but like, you know what I mean? Like do a job that's not in the public eye, and you're free to go and do that. But if you want to do this, you have to be a part of it. So what I would say is that my job and my department's job is to try and reduce the stresses as much as possible around it. But we can never solve all these problems. We can never solve the social media abuse. We can never solve someone walking down the street and getting abused, or criticism, or the family pressure. I can't solve that. But we try and reduce the stress as much as possible, so it's one less thing they have to worry about.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I think as well, do you ever, because I saw a recent interview with, who's the Man City, is it Cole Palmer?
Cole Palmer's the Man City player.
Man City player, yeah. And it sort of blew up online about how raw the interview was. I think the same goes with Ben Foster. His interviews are very raw. Do you ever help players with their media training, or is that a specific job within the club?
So we have a comms department who would help them with that. And yeah, it's interesting because I think I always like looking back at old Twitter. Like 2009 to 2013, and you see the players like they used to talk just like. I mean, Victor Wanyama's tweets are the famous ones, about putting paranormal activity in the
Rooney
bin.
as well, right?
Rooney. And that was them unfiltered. But now they get jumped on if they say one thing out of place or get criticised. And I think like a lot of the times they're so afraid of having opinions that they just say nothing. Yeah. And like I find it quite boring to follow a lot of the players on social media. I find it boring a lot of the interviews, and that's just the way it is because they say one thing interesting or they say one thing that's of note and they get jumped on. I remember there was a player I worked with who I think came out that he played the guitar, and it was something he just did at home for a bit of fun, and it leaked online. I can't remember, someone of his friends put it on Twitter or something like that, and it went viral that he was a guitar playing player. Yeah. Then every time he was on Sky or BT or whatever, they thought, oh, can you play us a song or this? And then it became something where like it was what he was known for, but it was his escape that then became a mainstream thing that everyone was like a performing monkey, like go and play for us. And he's like, then he hated it now because he lost control of it. Yeah. And I think one of the most valuable things and this is what's changed in the last sort of 5-6 years, is that the top players really value privacy. And I think that is one thing that they can control. So like if you look at some players, you might not know who their partners are, you might not know how many kids they've got, you might not know anything about their lives. And that's changed, I think, from 2009 to 2013, that kind of era where everything was like, put everything online, go for a coffee, put that online. Now it's like, you look at a lot of the social media accounts, they're very like manufactured because the one thing they can control is the privacy of their families. Yeah. And so that's, I think, a big shift. And that's probably the last bastion where they go, I don't want anyone to know what my kid's name is because it's strange, or because when having fans talk about my son or my daughter is very, very odd when they're 5 years old. So we're going to, not post anything about them anywhere. And that's kind of that control that they can have. And I think that's, again, how football's changed in the last sort of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. It is slightly coming full circle a little bit in the terms of, some of these England players that are progressively putting more of their
Well,
life
look at James
out.
Maddison, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Like the day in the life of his TikTok sort of thing.
Yeah. But okay, so
that
question for you then. Sorry to
No,
interrupt. Do you think that came across
It's your
well?
pod.
Do you think that came across well? When you watched that, were you like, that's quality?
I think you can. There's two perspectives on it. I think number one, you can say to him, look at. I feel like the American side of it would be like, look at this guy, look what he's achieved.
Yeah.
He's living the American dream, obviously, in Britain.
Yeah.
He should be so proud of himself. He's worked hard.
Yeah.
But I feel like the British side to look at that is, look at this bellend
Yeah.
boasting about what he's got.
Yeah.
But I don't
What
view it
about
like
any
that.
of the nation's perspectives?
No, but I'm just saying that I feel like that's very that's a very American view. That's a very British view.
Yeah.
Like especially in England, like I feel like a lot of people are. If someone drives a nice car down the road in America, they go, "Well done, man." But in England, they go, "Look at that tosser."
I think the way that people viewed that is very self-reflective of how they feel about their own lives. If they think that he's done really well for himself and he's deserved the success that he has, then people are quite accepting of it. But there's the other side of the coin where it's a certain element of jealousy that why should you be flexing this when basically my ticket for your match pays your wages.
I personally thought it was a really.
I thought it was cool.
liked it,
I like
but
the insight. There's not a lot of content like that you get to see from football.
To throw it back on you, if a player came to you with this TikTok which Maddison made, I would guess that you would
do it.
Yeah, would you be inclined to say don't post that just because you're scared of the backlash which could be caused or not?
I'm not going to tell a player because I'm not a social media expert, so I don't tell a player yes or no. But what I would say is like, do you want to put your Lamborghini in that? I said maybe just put a picture of your driveway, or actually don't put a picture of your driveway because then it lets people know where you live. But like, be careful of it. But like him putting the Lamborghini in there, for me watching that as a neutral person who has never met James, was like, it's a bit flashy, it's a bit showy off, and like that for me is not how I am personally. And I think I struggle when they're just showing off for the sake of showing off. Like, they've earned good money, there's no reason they shouldn't have a Lamborghini, but to just like dangle it in front of people, I would say, look, do you want to think twice about that? But I'm never going to tell a player they can't. Then they're adults, they don't have to listen to me. If they said, what do you think, I would give my advice. But for me, I watched that. I was interested at the training ground because like I've worked to help, I've worked at 3 training grounds, but try and develop it, make it better. And Leicester's is one of the best. So I was looking at that, I was like, wow, that is
seriously
world class. Because you do come to West Ham and it's not quite like that.
But that's what I mean. Like, you watched it and you took
I took bits out of it.
Yeah, from your own life and perspective of what you wanted to see, right?
But the fact that even a day in the life is somewhat not even controversial, but something we're talking about. Means that's how difficult it is for them to be human and people. Because I don't like the fact that he showed off his car.
But
don't mind it.
But he's been completely authentic, right? Yeah, that is his life.
If you took a Peugeot 206, an 07 plate 206, to training, you'd be like, well, what are you doing there? That's not your car. Why are you driving that?
But it's funny how that works. That if he'd have had a worse car, you'd expect him to receive some sort of criticism like, well, you're earning so much money, why don't you get a better car? You can't escape.
There's arguably no win for them. The one thing I did like, actually, because again, you could have 2 different opinions on it. I saw James was posting about his garden, and I've seen his garden quite a lot of. He's got a full left-hand-side goal and everything like that. And I look at that and I'm like, oh my god,
your wet dream.
Quite literally, that's actually quite inspiring to me.
Yeah.
But I can see how some people are like, look, he's just showing off.
But I would also say security concern. If you're now alerting people that if they find a garden with a goal in it, they can take a picture. They can look at your social media and compare it to your house. So that would be from a player. I don't care if he's got a goal or not. My concern then is there are a lot of players getting robbed at the moment.
A lot of players,
All you're doing is making it easier for people to find out where you live. That's dangerous for you and your family, especially someone like him who is showing off that he's got a Lamborghini, which probably means he's got watches, which probably means he's got valuable stuff in his house.
I think they were in that picture.
Yeah, they were. Literally showing where they are.
So then that would be where I'd say this is stupid. But it's difficult. There's no easy answer.
I remember talking to a player once, and at half time, their phone was going off like crazy. And obviously, you're not meant to chuck it.
You'd be in real trouble doing that.
But he was like, "Shit, I just have to check it."
Yeah.
It turns out it was his house alarm going off, and he was getting robbed at half time.
Really?
And he had to go get the police to go round. But I just imagine knowing you're going into the second half, knowing that your house is currently getting robbed.
Yeah.
And that's just little things that may be going on behind the scenes that the public may not be aware of.
Interesting that you've brought that up. would you have to sort that out if that did occur?
Yeah, so I mean that would be something where we always, I mean, most of the players switch their phones off during the game, like an hour before the game anyway. But yeah, that would be something where I would say leave it with me. We'll get a security guard to go around. I'll call the police. Like again, if I've got more staff like at West Ham, I could dispatch one of them to go and sort it out. But like we've had players get robbed before where. A lot, and it's easy because they can check if they're at home by turning on TV and saying Monday Night Football. That's on the pitch. It's not at home, so probably we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I probably had maybe 4 or 5 burglaries in my 8 years in the clubs. But you go in there, and like for me, it was always a priority of like make sure they're safe, but then get them out of that scene as quickly as possible. Do what they have to do with the police, but let's put them straight in a hotel.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that they are ready for training the next day, ready for the match next day. And if I have to stay till 6 a.m, getting a door put on or new windows put on or whatever it is, that's fine. That's my job. If I'm tired next day, it's not as important as if that player can't train.
100%.
So get it in, get them secured, find out what's missing, go through the insurance, but probably they'll move. If they're renting, they'll just move. Because once you've had, I mean, I don't know if you've rented, but it's horrible. Like it's a horrible feeling. So, but it's trying to make that like, that's fine, we'll deal with that. And it's that calm voice on the end of the phone because, again, like I was on call 24 hours during these 8 years, and I can't say I had more than maybe 10 emergency calls in those 8 years. But the feeling that they know that 24 hours a day they can call me and I know them and I'll have a solution, an answer. And sometimes I'd be like 3 in the morning, you're waking up and like my dad's not breathing.
Oh shit!
And you're like, what do I do? But on the phone you got to be like, no problem. You know, the nearest hospital is this. Call 999. I'll meet you there. We'll do the paperwork and all that. Now. That's me, and then I put the phone down. I'm like, oh my god, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But over the phone, you're that calm, you're that reassuring voice that actually goes, it's going to be okay. We're going to look after you. It'll be fine. You go there. You sit, and that happened once. And I just sat with the player for like 4 hours. And I think we had to watch something on like Netflix, or we just chatted about nothing about family, nothing about football. And by doing that, the bond to the player and the club, or the bond to you and the player, is so much greater because in those times of peril or need, that's if you don't react well, you can lose that trust. So for me, those are the kind of moments that kind of all the rest of it is extra. That is where you really need to be able to respond. And if your phone doesn't ring or you don't answer or you give bad advice, that can be really, really difficult. But even a player has a car crash and they go and they call you and you don't answer, then they drive away from the scene. That's now a very different kettle of fish from a genuine accident to a hit and run. Yeah. That could be jail time. That could be the end of that player's career because you haven't answered your phone. And okay, you say, well, they need to take responsibility, sure. But actually, that's kind of part of my role is to give them that advice and say, listen, sit there, lock your doors, don't talk to anybody. The police are on their way. Yeah. I'll come down there and we'll deal with it. Don't worry about it. You know?
What's that like for you personally? Obviously, I didn't know you were on call 24/7. It's just like a...
Yeah, that was one of our questions, right? What are your working hours? So
like on call 24/7. And knowing that for a lot of these players, you are their first call in any scenario. Yeah. What's that like for you, just the relentlessness of it?
Yeah, I mean, I burnt out. Like by the time I left West Ham, I kind of knew I was coming to the end of it. I think it's a young man's game, to be honest, because it's just relentless. I also travel to every game home and away, like pre-season, because I ran the trips operationally. So you're just always going 42 weekends a year. What I would try and get to the players is like between 7 a.m. 7 p.m. you could text me for anything. Outside that time, it better be an emergency. And I'd say, you can WhatsApp me. My phone will go on Do Not Disturb at 7 p.m. Yeah. You can WhatsApp me and I'll deal with it when I can. But if it's an emergency, call me. Yeah. And once you get to that level of respect where they're like, okay, fine. I remember a player called me at 3 a.m. and he was like, Hugo, I forgot to pay my parking. And I'm like, how dare you call me at 3 a.m. for your bloody parking? Yeah. And I pulled him the next day and I was like, don't you ever do that again, because I'm here for an emergency. You've woken me up in the middle of the night because you've forgotten bloody parking. He was like,
probably a panic gone through your head as well at 3 a.m.
Yeah, like, so my because you get a surgery done and then you can't sleep because you're like, it could be an emergency. And it was just, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I was watching TV, I forgot the time. And so that's the point where you go, that's not good enough. Yeah. You cannot come to me, and you can't be a doormat in this role. Yeah. You've got to go, listen, that's disrespectful to me. And he apologised and it didn't happen again. Yeah. But that's the kind of thing where I was ready to go for an emergency. I couldn't sleep for 3 hours, because you just get that.
Yeah, it's a panic that sets in, isn't it?
To have that responsibility for the players. I mean, I would get probably 3 weeks off in the summer, and I would try, if I could, to delegate it. I'd have my guys take their annual leave during the season. I would take my and you slowly just feel that pressure. But I remember that both times when I left Southampton and West Ham, you drive out the training ground for the last time, you don't have your work phone, and it's just like, really, like genuine, like I can breathe. And I still get it where like my phone will, I hear like phantom ringing of a phone, and I'll be like, what emergency? Or I'll see a player calling me now, and I'm like, oh no, I don't, like I can answer it if I'm free, but I don't have to jump to it because I'm not responsible for them. But I'm sure there's a real issue with, I mean, all backroom staff, I think they get pushed and like more games and Europa League especially, and all of that. Pre-season's really, really tough, and it's not an easy job. But it's a job that actually I never had one day where I didn't want to go to work. Yeah. And I think to have that is brilliant. You can't ask more than that. So massive pressure, massive responsibility, but I enjoyed it.
Obviously, you left West Ham to set up your own company. Did you take a break in between, or were you setting up during the end of your West Ham time?
So I had 3 months notice at West Ham, so I gave them my notice. I decided that I was gonna do this, so I'd kind of done little bits in the background, but nothing really. I had a domain name and a company registered, but I hadn't really done anything. We were supposed to do it where I'd work my 3 months notice and not say anything to the players or the club, and then like with 3 weeks to go, just let them know, because working 3 months notice period is a long time, especially in football. And then within 3 days, it leaked on Twitter that I was leaving, which I didn't think was a big enough thing. But I was at dinner one night, and suddenly it was like, my phone's like blowing. I'm like, my social media is pretty quiet. And I'm like, what's happening here? And it's like, Hugo's quit. And then it was like, he's not happy with the club's direction. And I was like, genuinely not true. Like, I was ready for a break. Like, I wanted to do my own thing. And so then we had to then suddenly move very quickly and tell the players and make it more official and post the job and stuff. So then I got but then it was like, well, what are you doing now? Why are you leaving? And because I didn't have the website ready and the company ready, I was kind of like, oh, wait and see. And then it looked like I was getting fired because I was just leaving a good job in the middle of the season doing nothing. And I'm like, because I thought I had 2 months to get it ready. So then suddenly, we put the website up, and it was fine. Like it was fine. The idea was I was supposed to go traveling for the first 3 months, and then just like because I never had a gap year, I never did any of that. Then we got into lockdown. So I quit on
the timing.
My last day was on Christmas Eve 2019. And I was supposed to go traveling January, February 2020, and obviously I didn't. So, sorry, 2021 even. It was like, it was just like I was supposed to have 3 months off, and I didn't. So then I was kind of working on the website, but we're not really pushing it. And so we finished our first year about a couple of weeks ago. So it's certainly not 24 hours a day. It's certainly not even 7 days a week or 6 days a week or even 5 days a week. But it's great for me. It's really going well, and I enjoy it. But it's definitely a step back for me in allowing to enjoy work-life balance a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you still work with clubs?
Yeah. So the business has basically two sides. It's consulting, so I would go and help them improve what they do internally. So either work with the staff or help them recruit their first staff, put in policies and procedures. But I'm not the person on call. So they have somebody. I would help that person who's there. Yeah. But I don't work with players directly. And then we do educational courses, so online stuff that if people want to either learn about it or become a player liaison or even just adapt their business or learn more about it, we do online courses. So yes, I still work with clubs, but it's not on the same capacity where I'm on call. It's like, what would you do in this scenario? Okay, I can chat you through what we could do, but it's not Hugo sort this out right now, which is great.
Yeah. I see that you do qualifications and certificates on your website under the branch of the company. Yeah. Do you have any notable graduates that are currently working at big clubs now? Or?
Yeah, so we've had, I think it's, at my last count, it's 14 people who've done the course, working roles in football full-time in various guises.
Do you help to get them job opportunities at specific clubs?
So what we do is, they're part of the alumni group. I post every job opportunity I see, I post it in the alumni group, so they get access to it, and then I'll help them with their application. And sometimes clubs will say, who do you know in this role? And I'll inevitably recommend one of my graduates. So I love it when people get jobs. It's such a rewarding thing, especially when we had one guy who was working at Domino's and now he works full time at a club. And I'm not saying it's just because of my course, but that doesn't really happen.
Are you allowed to say which club he's at?
I didn't ask him if I could say it, so I won't.
All right, that's fair
I won't. But we've got people in the top clubs in the country, and I think but that's also awesome. People abroad and all of that, and that's really exciting that this is being seen. It's not a qualification as such because it hasn't gone through that vetting process. It's just a certificate of knowledge, and it's access to me and to other teachers who work in player care, and it's been really good, and I enjoy helping people because it doesn't really exist. There's no standards, there's no qualifications around, so I like to do it.
Do you still find players are still, even though they're not meant to, are they still coming to you for advice, for help, just because it's
your friends, right?
Well, and this is the thing.
And they're probably used to just giving you a ring.
Yeah, so when I left Southampton, they didn't replace me immediately, and it was a substantial period where there was nobody doing the role, and I had players. Well, first of all, they were like, "How can you leave? I thought we were friends." And I'm like, "You you do know I'm paid to be here. Like, I appreciate that vote of confidence, but like, this is not my life dream.
How could you break up with me?
Yeah. So it was like, but what am I going to... And I remember there was a player who called me, I was probably 3 months in West Ham, and he was like, my lease is expiring, I don't know what to do, I'm going to be homeless.
I'm at a different club.
Can you come down? I'm like, we're battling you for relegation, like... No,
you're my enemy.
You're not my enemy, but like, you know, like I'm like, no, I can't. I'm paid by West Ham to look after their players, and he's like, can you take a day off? I'll pay you. And I'm like, it's not that fact. It's the fact that I work very hard to be West Ham to win, and then I can't just say, well, I'm going to pop down and help with West Ham. So I said, look, here's some estate agent contacts from Southampton. Message them. They can sort you out. And I'm not going to be like, I'm going to be a dick and be like, no, screw you.
Yeah.
But I can't also just be like popping around doing little bits for players. Now, I've had some players who still speak to me who are like, what do you think about this? Or like, not can you do it, but like, I'm thinking about doing this house deal.
Bit of advice kind of thing.
Advice.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to do that and stay in touch. But I think football's like any work environment. Like, you've probably worked in places where you keep in touch with 5%, 10% of your colleagues, but most of them, like, you never see them again. And that's the same with football. You know, like, football's even more transient, I think, where people just move on to the next one. You know, you're done with them. Like, hey, who's the new Hugo? Right, this guy's a new Hugo. All right, fine. Don't need to worry about Hugo anymore. And some players are more chatty than others and more friendly than others, but it's like any workplace, I think, really.
Do you know, like, when the inception of player care began? Because as you said before, it was like player liaison officer. When
so this is an area of contention within the player care community.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
Don't want to get the player care haters. No, no one cares that much. There's two people I think who claim to be the number one. So it was Lorna McClelland at Aston Villa. I think she was like 2000.
Oh, really? That far back?
Yeah. So
wow.
She was brilliant. She's retired now, but she was like a languages teacher, and she was really, really like a motherly figure to players. And then there was a guy, Bill Ellaby at Everton, who I think he was there maybe before Lorna, but his role wasn't like this is your role. It was kind of, he was a guy to help out.
Yeah.
And so whether Bill or Lorna were the first, I don't know. But Everton and Aston Villa were the two clubs to sort of have somebody in an actual role first. But Man City were the first to go with, those were both player liaisons, player care, as we kind of spoke about at the beginning of this proactive thing. Man City were the first. There was a guy, Hayden Roberts, who I think 2009, I think he set up that department. And that was, you know, revolutionary to anything that anyone's ever seen. I based a lot of what I did on what he did. And that was the first club to go, we're going to put real resource and real money and real thinking into this. And so Man City would be the first sort of modern player care club.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I know that, we've got down a story about one of the players you have worked quite closely with, and that was Van Dijk at Southampton.
Yeah.
And he was saying that he would like trust his life with you. How do you think your relationship with players have changed since then, or have they changed since then?
I think if I'm critical of myself, I was too close to the players at Southampton, too friendly, and I think it's really difficult because I moved to Southampton from Indianapolis, but I lived in America for the last 5 years. I don't know people in Southampton. Like, I was moving there like them. I had no connections to Southampton as an area or as a club, and so I found it quite lonely as well, you know. And I think being a footballer is really lonely because you're always questioning, why are people friendly to you? If someone sees you in a bar and says, "Oh, what are you doing?" Is it because they know that you can maybe get them tickets, money, boots, shirts, whatever, or are they genuinely a nice person? Same with dating, you know, it's all very difficult. And so I know that when I was at Southampton, I found it quite lonely. So a lot of the players were also lonely. So you'd go for dinner and you'd hang out and all that. And I think there were times certainly where I got caught in the middle because there'd be an issue between the player and the club, and they'd go, "Well, Hugo, can you sort this out?" And I'm like, I can't, because the club's my employer, and I need to be really careful about getting that balance right between club and player needs. And so when I went to West Ham, I made a conscious effort that, like, I'm not going to be friends with anyone from work. Be friendly, be supportive. You know, if we're on a work trip, happy to have a glass of wine with a member of staff or a coffee with a player. And we were very close. Yeah. But there was never that cross of boundary. I wasn't going to their birthday parties. I wasn't going to nights out. Yeah. I wasn't hanging around their houses. Like, I had my own friends. And that made it very much easier to be professional. Still warm and supportive, but professional. Yeah. And I think that's a mistake I made at Southampton, where I got too personally invested with the players and their families, and maybe wasn't able to be like fair. And then when players would leave, and I think it's happened to every player care member of staff, the first player you're really close to who leaves, it does feel like a breakup, because it's somebody that you're like seeing every day. They're messaging you all the time. And like for me, especially at the beginning, when I was younger, hanging out with them, know their family, know their partner, know their kids, know their parents, know the alarm codes in their house, and suddenly it's like gone. And
out your life forever.
And then like you message them a little bit, but there's no need. So then it tails off into a point where you don't even really speak to that person. And it's like, it's quite harsh because transfers can happen in hours, you know? Like, so I think by being less personally invested, it made me a better player care professional. But it's really hard to get that balance between not being cold and not being disinterested, but also being professional. I think that's probably one of the best skills a player care person can have is to have that ability to balance both needs.
Sounds very pertinent to how doctors act, really. So it sounds quite medicinal.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of confidentiality, you know, and there's always a question of what does the club need to know? Because the club would probably say, I want to know everything about every player. Well, actually, that's not good for the player. It's not good for the club. But there'll be things where, like, if he's broken up if his wife's left him, that's not a club matter, but it would be good for the manager to be aware of it with the player's permission to say, listen, this player's going through this massive emotional trauma. Just be wary if he's a little bit off in training today. Just be aware of it. And the manager can deal with it either directly, not mention it, be aggressive with him. Whatever the manager wants to do is the manager's prerogative. But to give the manager all the information he needs to make the right decision, I think is really important. Yeah. But it's always got to be with the player's consent, because you can't just go chatting around about, well, this player's left his wife and this one's doing it. It's not my business, and I want them to be to trust me. Yeah. But there are always times you have to go, listen, I can't keep this a secret. I need to speak to the club. And with the players buy-in, it would be fine. With
the relationship thing, I'm guessing that when you are obviously doing these courses with people who want to move into this profession, I'm guessing that's one of the priorities is you need to train these guys not to get too close to the players. So I'm guessing a lot of these guys that come and want to work in these types of roles, they may have this pre-thought of, I'm going to be best mates with all these footballers, but it's not really like that, is it? It's more of you are there to do a job, not to be friends with Ronaldo.
That's what I mean as well. Do you have to vet the people that take the qualifications with you in case they have entered into it with the wrong intentions?
No. So the course anyone can sign up to. So it's online and it's available. Okay. But what we talk about a lot is there's a session on like careers and personal development. And one of the conversations is a fan versus a professional. Yeah. And like, so I'll look them up on social media or you know, just Google them a little bit. And I've had people who've applied for jobs at me at West Ham, and then they've had anti-owner sentiments in their bios. And I'm like, well, I can't possibly hire you because I can't have Karen Brady at the training ground and you're like, you know, like ridiculous. You know, and that's where I think I always say to people, don't work at the club you love, because it's either can be really disappointing or it can be really hard to be a professional. And so we've had a number of people, and I think because my following online is mostly Southampton West Ham fans, I get a higher number of West Ham and Southampton fans coming through, but I would say to them, like, it's best off working elsewhere, because you want to be a professional. And like, I supported Everton when I was a kid. I don't care now. I would never want, I work so hard for both Southampton and West Ham that I would never want us as in the club I work for, lose to a club that I supported as a kid, because all my work and all my effort and even my financial rewards are down to West Ham or Southampton doing well. So the thought I'd be like, I really want us to lose today is irrelevant. And I think you become this kind of like person who just like, I'm not a football fan anymore. I used to be a massive football fan in America. I would wake up early and watch the 5 games in a row on Saturdays. I'd play Football Manager. I'd play, I'd coaching two teams at the same time. I'd read the magazines and all this. Now I'm like, I don't enjoy football from a fan's point of view. I don't go to away match. I don't go to matches really. I get invited all the time. Just not interested. Yeah. And I don't watch the football on the weekend and think this is a really fun thing to do. I like watching Formula One, or I like watching something else. Where it's basically anything but football. Because if I watch football, it feels like I'm working. Yeah. And I think that's what I try and say to people is like, if you want this to be if football is your escape, that's fine to keep it as your escape. But if you work in it, it probably won't be your escape for much longer. And I think that's what I didn't really take into account when I started doing this, is that I didn't have an escape for a number of years because football was work. And even I love Football Manager. That's how I got first into football. And I've been playing Football Manager, and I appeared as the West Ham player. Like, if he plays West Ham, I'm not a character you can sign, but it comes up with I don't know.
Well, Mark Noble's in the game.
Mark Noble's unhappy. Hugo Schecter's popped up. Mark Noble's unhappy, and I'm like, this feels too much like work. Yeah. I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. So I did this player's unhappy, and I'm like, no, you know what? I'm not going to play this anymore. And I love Football Manager.
That's great.
But it's like when you're annoying yourself, and then I get people messaging me like, why do you keep saying Declan Rice? And I'm like, it's not me, obviously. My face is auto-generated.
It's like yourself is telling yourself off in the game.
Yeah, but it doesn't notice notice that it's the same person. So, but that for me is like, I used to love Football Manager or Championship Manager back in the day. And like, now I wouldn't really play that much. So like, it's these little things where actually you can say boo-hoo, like you've got a great job, sure. And so like, that's why I'm happy with it. But if you're a fan and a die-hard fan, I would say stay being a fan. That's great. And that's enjoy your football as a fan. But when you're in working in the game, then you have to change your perspective. You can't be emotional. You can't be angry. You can't be, if we lose 6-0, I can't be in the change room throwing stuff around and you wanker and this and
the job.
My job
first,
is like to make sure that everything is sorted and whatever, and support the players. If they lost 6-0, they're going to be upset. Probably some of them are going to make mistakes. They're going to get abused. Let's sort that out rather than being like throwing stuff around the change room.
So how was this summer for you? Watching England in the Euros, could you enjoy that as a fan?
I did. Yeah. I mean, it was the first tournament I think probably since 2012 that I'd not been working.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed it, and I
until
I enjoyed it, and I went to the semi and the final actually, and
nice.
But actually, those are the games I enjoyed the least. Because I was there, and the enjoyment for me was watching the group stages with a group of friends, going to the pub. Yeah. Whether that was in lockdown rules or not, we'll say
it was the Euros.
We'll say it was, but whatever. We could keep going, as Boris would say. So what we do is I enjoyed that as from the social element of it. I'd never been able to go to a pub and watch England and just have a good time. Yeah. Going to the game, then it felt like work because I was like traveling to the game, and I got there like. I remember I went to the only game I've been to since I left Premier League game, Southampton West Ham, like the Schechter Derby as nobody calls it. I went down to St Mary's and I arrived 3 hours before the game, like I would normally. And I'm like, why the hell am I here 3 hours? I have nothing to do. Like the players aren't even here. Like I have no work. But in my mind, I was like, no, I need to be there 3 hours. And I was just like kicking around Southampton, and Southampton. Around St Mary's, there's nothing there. So then I was just like, I'm just stood in like an industrial state. Like,
what do I do now?
This is really bad. And I actually really did not enjoy the game. I was appreciative that they helped me out and sorted me out ticket and stuff. But like, I went there and I was like, I don't need to do that again. Like, I used to go on the team bus into the stadium, into the change room, get a cup of coffee or whatever, then go sit behind the bench, watch the game, then fly back on the private plane. Yeah. And now I'm like, I've got to pay to drive down there, get on the train, park miles away, sit in the stand. Like, I was like, there's no enjoyment for me in that. So I don't really go to football anymore.
Actually, that is one thing, because I know people always say, footballers are so lucky that they travel the world and see all these different places. But really, they're not actually seeing the places they're going to, are they? Say, for example, they go to some amazing city in Europe. They're private jet there, straight into a team bus, straight into a hotel, lockdown, match, hotel, bus, back. Did you get a chance to see anywhere you travelled to?
No, I mean, we did Europe. I did Europe for 2 seasons with Southampton, and we did, our group stage was Inter Milan, Sparta Prague, and Hapoel Be'er-Sheva, which is in Israel. And I remember, like, never been to Israel, never been to Prague, I'd been to Italy, but like, I didn't see any of it. Like, I would go a day ahead of the team to set up the hotel when that was my role at that time. But I can't say I've seen Israel. Like, we flew into Tel Aviv airport. We drove an hour or so to Be'er-Sheva. We stayed in this tiny little town. And, like, it was an experience, but I wouldn't say I know the country. And, like, we go, hotel. You go to the stadium to train. You go back to the hotel. You're not seeing the place. It's just a hotel room. And whether you're in Burnley, you're in... New York, whatever, unless the manager says go and have some days off, which he won't do in the Europa League game. You're not seeing anything. So like, I don't count myself as having been to Israel, even though I've been there. If that makes sense.
Is that definitely something you want to do at some point in the future, though? Get your gap year in, so to speak.
Well, that's what you're supposed to have.
I mean, like, I'd actually signed up to do coaching in Mauritius.
That's cool.
And I was
now
like, do 2 months of that, and like, it's like 3 hours a day, and you pay, but it's very little money, and they give you accommodation. And I was like, it seems pretty easy, but Mauritius, beautiful beaches. I'm just going to chill out completely. And so I probably would love to do that again in the future. Whether I'll be able to just stop my business for 2 or 3 months to go and do that, I don't know, but yeah, maybe. So for me, I want to make player care better. I want to improve standards across the clubs. I want to make sure that players are getting looked after better, but also it's being thought about properly. So a lot of the time I'm speaking with directors of football to say, have you thought about this, or is this a way you could do things better? So for me, I just want to be the forefront of player care, obviously make some money to live on, and which I've been able to do so far. So yeah, I think just improve player care, because I actually am genuinely passionate about it. I'm not in it for the money. If I wanted to make the money, I could probably sell my soul a little bit to banks or insurance companies who want me to promote it, but I don't. And I think that's really important to try and be, the best you can be and improve something and leave my mark on it.
The Sherlock Holmes of player care, independent consultant.
Sherlock Holmes. I haven't heard that one before, but sure.
Good, right?
We'll go with that. I'll put it on the website.
Now, obviously, you've been in the game. Was it 10 or so years?
Yeah, give or take.
You must have been asked to do some outlandish, some crazy things. I mean, for example, I remember being at Arsenal a couple of years ago, being in reception, and I overheard a conversation from, I'm assuming it's going to be the player liaison officer. I won't say who it's about or anything like that. But he was on the phone with one of the person who works at the club, and their wife had crashed their car, and he was trying to sort out a crash. So is there anything like that has happened? Like what would you say, obviously without naming names or anything like that, what's the craziest thing you've ever been asked to do?
I mean, I think the first thing I would preface it is that if it's important to the player, it should be important to me. And like, even if it's, maybe I think it's a bit silly or a bit ridiculous, like it might be really important to them. And if they're worrying about the day before a game, then it's probably something that we need to take care of. So I guess the example that I actually teach with is, I had a player who'd forgotten his wife's birthday, and she was abroad in I guess it would be Far East, so Japan, Hong Kong, something like that. I can't remember where exactly she was. And it was like 2 days before. He's like, I completely forgot her birthday. What can I do? And so I said, give me a couple of minutes. He wanted to get this handbag from London and get it to her. So I was like, okay, well, give me a couple of minutes. I'll give you some options. And I said, right, I've got 3 options for you. Number 1, you call her and apologise. And you say, there's a lovely handbag waiting for you when you get back. Option 2 is we like FedEx it, post it, whatever. It might cost 500 quid to get that quickly. Can't guarantee it arrive, maybe get stuck in customs, but there's that. Or I'll get an intern or somebody, I'll put them on the next flight to Tokyo for the sake of argument. Direct flight. They'll go there. You'll be there for your wife's birthday. Knock on the door of her thing in the morning and deliver the bag and say it's from you. That, we've got free, we've got 300 quid, and we've got probably 7 or 8 grand. Which one do you think he picked?
7 or 8 grand.
That's that.
You saying the same?
Oh no.
Well,
free one.
We can't go the same.
I don't know.
I'll go high. You go low.
Okay.
It's going to be the middle one, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll go free.
You're going free, and
I'm going to go the 8 grand one.
Yeah, you pick the free one. But the thing is, what I'm saying is, Matt, is I've given him 3 options. I've not said no, it can't be done. Because if he says no, it can't be done, then the security guard or whoever hears it goes, I can do that for 15 grand. It costs 8. So that guy just made 7 grand off him. So I'm going, and it's always this no ... but. Like, no, we can't do that, but here are some solutions. And it's not from, like, if either of you got partners, if you forgot their birthday, how much would you pay for them not to realise that you forgot their birthday? A day's salary? Sure, but that's 8 grand in his case. It might be a couple hundred quid or 50 quid or whatever it is for different people. But you think about that not in terms of the overall spend of money, but the relative to them. Those were 3 good solutions. And actually by saying, these are 3 solutions, he's picked in my mind, the right one. And it was fine, it was great. But by saying these are possibilities for you that are all legal and they're possible, you could be creative because money is not normally the constrictor. You're solving problems in a better way. So I love that kind of thing where there's like a logistical challenge where you've got to try and sort it out and be creative because money isn't your restricting factor.
I told you, Sherlock Holmes.
Would you say that was the craziest thing you've been asked to do?
Craziest thing I've had, what have I had? I had a player who didn't have a dining room table on Christmas Day, and his mother-in-law was coming. And
that is such an awkward scenario, though. A mother-in-law coming over.
Yeah, he's like, I don't have anyone to eat Christmas dinner.
How much time had you been given to solve that?
I got Christmas
Christmas
Eve. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and he's like, I need a table for tomorrow morning. Well, obviously in the UK, nothing's open on Christmas Day. So I remember we drove around New Forest. I hired a driver to drive around the area and basically knock on independent furniture shops where they hopefully lived above. And just say, look, we'll pay you triple if you'll open the shop and give us this and deliver it today or whatever. And we did it, and that was. And then he's like, I don't really like the table. I was like, I don't give a fuck.
you're eating Christmas dinner on that
table. Trestle table from a school. You're going to eat on it and you're going to be grateful. But like, that's the kind of thing where, okay, should he have been all more? People watch that and say, he's a diva. But actually, like, should he have been more organised? Of course, he should have done. But it was a massive issue with a Boxing Day game. He knew that he was going to be in the doghouse if he didn't have a table to eat Christmas dinner on. So, and for whatever we could pay, 500 quid, we solved that problem. For me, that's a job well done.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, in the future, it's not going to happen again. But like, you try and say, look, for Christmas on the 10th of December, what do you need for Christmas? Do you need decoration? Do you need a tree? What do you need? Rather than just going like Christmas Eve at 10 o'clock, I need a table. Right, well, why have you not thought, where were you eating before? Like, why have you not had that? So, but you just had like a breakfast bar. So like, that's the kind of stuff where like, you like, it takes you aback, but actually, okay, that is important for them, so let's solve that problem and not judge them. And I don't want people coming like thinking that I'm going to be like, oh, what the hell are you doing? Like sometimes you give them a bit of shit for it, but like in reality, you don't want them to be like, I don't want to speak to Hugo because he's going to laugh at me or mock me or whatever. So yeah,
so that's a quite important trait to have within the job, is to not be judgmental.
Of course, yeah. Just
because you never know what is actually going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. We had a player who had 2 wives because that was his culture, like 2 legal wives. Yeah. And I'd never thought of that about that before, because we always had like, when we have like family events, we have, bring your partner. Yeah. Whoever that is, you can bring your partner. But then we're like, does he get 2 tickets to that? Like, do they both come? Do they like each other? Do they know each other? Do they hang out? Like, so then I just went to him and asked him. I said, like, what's the deal? Like,
what's the situation there?
How, is there a primary wife, a secondary wife? Are they equal? Or do they do different things? Like, I genuinely had no idea. I didn't know the culture. I didn't know that. And we had and he's like, no one ever asked. Everyone's just awkward about it. I'm like, well, I need to know. And he's like, if you don't want to tell me, you don't have to tell me. But and then so we got to the bottom of it. And like that for me is something where you've got to be open-minded, because that's nonsense. Whoever's your first is it's up to him. We need to bring the club to that player, as well as that player learning how we operate to try and bring it to us.
Were there any occasions where you were allowed to turn your phone off for a day, i.e. your birthday or Christmas, as you said?
Birthday, no.
Really? You never got a birthday?
No, we always seem to play Man City away on my birthday. And you're like, oh no. God, yeah. And we'd have, it's always, Manchester Airport's a nightmare as well. Because that's how I look at games, is how logistically easy, I don't care about the results so much. Like, Man City's a pain in the arse because they're super organised, they're super secure. You need passes to go everywhere. And like, whereas you go to like Leicester, they're really friendly. It's a coach ride up there. Everyone's really nice. Yeah. So like, I'd look forward to Leicester, Old Trafford, like Chelsea, it's going to be a pain in the arse. Yeah. So Man City away on my birthday, we rarely win. And so, that was kind of... you can't just take days off. And like, if it was like a serious family emergency or something, they would be like, okay. Yeah. But it's not just like, I've got a wedding or a fancy... Like, I've missed a lot of weddings. I've missed a lot of birthdays, parties, all that kind of stuff, because football just keeps going. Yeah. And I was never maybe secure enough or strong enough or whatever to say I want that day off. Now, when I knew in my mind I was leaving West Ham, I then started filtering my staff in and saying, right, well, this lad's going to do the cup games and this lad's going to do this game. So that, again, to set them up better, so when I left, it wasn't like, well, no one knows what they're doing. Yeah. But actually, like, I remember they went to Newport County away in the cup, and I was like, God, I don't want to do that. And I think it was a late game, and I'm looking at that.
Getting back late as well.
Because all the fans love the FA Cup or the League Cup. It's like, oh, great, we got Newport away. And I'm like, oh, God. And the problem is when big clubs play little clubs, it's very different because they don't have the structure. So I remember we played Wimbledon, and we lost to Wimbledon. I think we lost them twice in the cup in 2 years at West Ham. And the problem with Wimbledon is like the security are all like fans, and it's like everyone's a fan. So at the end of the game, the Wimbledon beat us at their ground, and all the security are on the pitch celebrating. And so suddenly we've got like £200 million worth of talent, and I've got my team security that I employed, but they can't hold off 6,000 people. So they're trying to like arm the tunnel. Then there's like side doors we don't know what it is, and they're basically fans getting to us. And they're all like, because they're Wimbledon fans, they're in your face, like, and you're just getting battered. Yeah. You know you're going to do it. Like, it's a bit of like, you're not actually in danger. But the fact that like that would never happen at Premier League ground or a European ground where, the security just run off and are celebrating on the pitch. And that's not a fault of Wimbledon. Like, it was one of the greatest moments in their recent history. So like, I understand why they were doing it, but it's that kind of stuff where like, and then everyone wants shirts. Everyone is like, can I get a shirt? Can I get a shirt? Players are queuing outside our change room. And again, it's absolutely fine. But it's another element where when we go play Arsenal, I've not got Aubameyang going, oh, can I get a shirt? And then like, it's just, like, they will switch shirts and we'll help them with that. But like, it's not just like, whereas it, like when you go to a non-league ground or a local ground, they all want a memento, which is fine. But and we've lost some horrible cut. We lost Oxford 4-0 away, and you're like, God, it's just like, that's that's when you really question your life decisions. I've done Christmas Day, Burnley away. We had Burnley away on Boxing Day, and so on Christmas Day we fly up to Burnley, and you're in like this like 3-star hotel in Burnley, because it's not really a nice hotel in Burnley, and you're there and you're eating grilled chicken and like pesto pasta on Christmas
trying to have a
evening,
Christmas,
and you're like, this. I question my life choices right now, but
So I bet some of those FA Cup games. They're different, sure. I remember going. We used to work a lot with the FA.
Yeah.
I remember going. Was it Sutton United?
Yeah, Sutton,
Arsenal played Sutton,
yeah.
and it wasn't it the keeper that had the pie.
Yeah, Wayne Shaw.
And I remember because I used to do a lot of those FA Cup stuff, so I got like quite good access.
Yeah.
But at Sutton, I was mind blown. I was on the pitch during the warm up.
Yeah,
we were standing on the pitch next to like Alexis Sanchez or someone like that, Theo Walker, and I was like, this is so bizarre. And the change rooms were literally like like
it's a bench.
Sunday
hangers.
Sunday League change room. So I can imagine for backroom staff going to, if you're used to the heights of like the Premier League grounds, going to these non-league clubs must be a bit of a, not an eye-opener, but a definitely like a culture change as well.
Definitely. And like, so we would travel with 2 masseurs. And so you'd have 3 beds lined up. You'd have a physio and 2 masseurs like warming the players up. When you go to Wimbledon, there's not room for even 16 players, because they, in the lower leagues they have smaller benches. So we're traveling with maybe 9 subs, and then you've got the players who don't travel. You've got 6 coaches. You've got 2 analysts. You've got 2 kit men, and like, so I would just be like, I'm staying out of here. But we'd literally be like crammed in. But that's part of the magic of the cup.
Yeah.
Is that actually that's why these teams go and struggle, because the prep isn't there, and like even like everything's difficult. But Wimbledon, you have to walk through the car park to get to the team bus. Every other Premier League stadium, it's fenced off, so you can go and see the fans, but you're not having to and they're getting pelted, and it's just. I
remember when the Arsenal coach rocked up at Sutton United, and they physically couldn't actually get into the changing rooms because the fans were in the car park blocking everything and blocking the way through. Yeah. Like they didn't even have enough security to get when the players came off the bus. It was like a free for all to get into the change room. Yeah. They're like sprinting in.
Absolutely, and then you got I remember we were on pre-season one time. And I said to the security, we hired, we never really take our own security on pre-season because you want local people with local knowledge. And I said to the guy, can you just guard we had 2, the bus has a front door and a side door. Can you guard, one of you guard the front door and you the back door? Then I'm in the hotel sorting out something, and one of the players puts in the players group chat a picture of the security guard getting selfies with the player on the bus. But on the bus, so I have to go down there and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I didn't do anything. And I'm like, here's a picture of you getting a selfie with whatever player. No, it's not me. And you're like,
yes, it is.
What are you talking about? I don't know, I can't prove this, but and so you're like, but that's the kind of thing where you're working with different standards of stuff. And we did the Premier League tournament in China. That was a massive eye opener for me, because I'm used to going to Europe or America where the language is if I don't speak the language, someone on the team will. China, it's obviously so different. And to go there and fly in there and just have everything be so alien, I think for me really made it understand when a player arrives in England and doesn't speak English, how completely disorientating it is.
Yeah, 100%.
And the language is obviously not even French to English. There's words where you can kind of work out what you're doing, like bière and a beer. But I don't know what a beer is in Chinese, but it ain't a beer.
Yeah.
So you felt so lost and so out of your depth and everything, and it made me really understand how hard it can be for players as well. So lots of fascinating experiences for sure.
And obviously there's a lot of ups, a lot of downs, I'm guessing as well.
Yeah.
One of your more famous stories that was quite public, wasn't it? I think you've talked about it quite a lot recently. Was the Issa Diop ring story. Do you want to explain that one to the viewers if they don't know?
Yeah, so this is it resurfaces every now and then. So
sorry.
Yeah, actually, from me being the most famous for players' wedding ring is mad. But yeah, so Issa Diop, I can't remember what game it was now, but he wasn't expecting to come on, I don't think, and suddenly there was an injury or a change of formation or something, and he was called on, and he has this double wedding ring. It's like a looped ring,
right?
And they're not allowed to wear rings, but sometimes they tape it up, sometimes they take it off. Anyway, he hadn't taped it up, so he was trying to get it off, and he couldn't get it off, and he ends up putting it in his mouth and then pulls it, and one of the rings hits me on the shoulder and the other one goes somewhere in the ground, and he's like, grab it, yeah? And I'm like, yeah. The problem is at London Stadium, the bench where I would sit because I was doing the subs board at the time, and I don't know why in COVID they said that fourth official couldn't do the subs board, someone from the team had to, so it was assigned to me. So you put it on, then you hold it up, and it's actually really heavy, but that's I'm not looking for sympathy. Anyway, so I'm trying to do the board, and you've got to do a card, you've got to fill in a card, give it to fourth official, and then you've got to put the thing and hold it up. And So I'm holding the board, and then Issa's ring, one of it, I catch it, and then the other one, I couldn't find it. But with the bench being so far from the pitch at West Ham, I'm there, like David Moyes is there, I'm there, I think it was Martin Atkinson was the fourth official, and then whichever manager we were playing against was also there. And there's the four of us up there, and Martin Atkinson, I think it was Martin Atkinson, but whoever the fourth official was like, oh, if you want to stay up here and find it, that's fine. I'm like, David Moyes is going to look over me and like,
What's this imbecile doing?
It's like the 60th minute. Hugo's on his hands and knees. Like, so I was trying to basically like look down. Anyway, I couldn't find the second ring. And Issa comes off straight off the pitch, goes, "Have you got my ring?" And I'm like, "Got half of it." And he's like, he's like, "Okay, well, just can you find it?" And so I'm looking around, and I got a metal detector from like when they scan the.
Oh my God.
Oh, is that what it was?
The wand.
Yes.
It was one like an airport scan.
Yeah.
I was like, because it's metal.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it in the grass, and so we got one from like security, and I couldn't find it. It wasn't beeping anywhere. And then we got a roller, which is the thing that they it's like on wheels. It's a magnet. And it's used after concerts to get like coins and stuff off the pitch.
Oh,
so
I
it's
didn't
safe.
know that was a thing.
So
yeah.
they rolled it down, and it wasn't popping up. So then there's like 5 or 6 of us looking around, and then finally one of the groundsmen found it. Now I didn't really think much of it, but then on Match of the Day 2 that night,
Like,
it was like, it was like they were playing Benny Hill music over it, and then like my arse is hanging out, and I'm like, oh god. So then everyone's seen it.
Yeah.
But then like 3 or 4 months later, it's on like UK's funniest football moments.
One of them like TV shows.
You know, one of those shows where there's like people talking about it, and then I was like, I don't know, 23, 24. So then it goes again.
Yeah.
And so I've got like Bianca Westwood being like, and Hugo's doing this, he doesn't even look. And I'm like, cheers, Bianca. Like, just like going into my mind, and like, all these different like comedians or whatever they are commenting on my state of mindness, and like, because there's a point where I look away and I'm trying to get the physio to get Vaseline to get his finger off, but it looks like I'm like not bothered, and then ring goes over my shoulder at that point. Anyway, I'm just like, this is mad. This is like the one thing that I'm like not known for, but like people would know, maybe have seen me on. And then like it was even Issa's birthday yesterday, and the Premier League like posted it again. Like,
kind of
cheers,
It just does the rounds every single year.
It's just one of those things. But like, I think it's just worse. It's just my arse is hanging out because I'm like on my hands and knees. I'm like, and it's just like live on Sky on Match of the Day. And I'm like, great.
Imagine the panic just getting worse and worse. I was like, oh shit.
Because we were like pulling up the grass and everything like that, and it was like, 'cause it was like an Astro on the side, and I was just like, this is gonna be really bad. But like, ultimately, it's on him. Like, he wouldn't blame me, I don't think, because he should have been ready. But like, I was just thinking my whole credibility for years of being like, talking about all the stuff we talk about now, and then I lost a ring and had my arse out on TV. So it's just like, that's the way it is.
I imagine there's quite a lot of stories like that, but that's like the main publicised.
But it's like, it's not even that good a story, really. I don't think.
Just lost a ring.
But it's just because there's a video of it. Yeah, it makes it a good story. But there's been loads of other stuff where you're like, well, that's really silly. But like, like it is. That's just one that sort of caught the imagination.
Before we get on to the quiz we do every week.
Oh God. Okay.
I want to touch on one thing. Obviously, in our professions, me as well, I've been very fortunate enough to work with a lot of footballers and meet some people that never in my wildest dreams I would have thought I'd meet and work with. And you have to strike that balance of being a fan and being professional. And I've definitely realised over the years, I've felt that I've sort of become less of a fan. It's just very, not normal, but it's much more normalised to meet these people. Yeah. Have you ever had... Exactly that, Have you ever had a moment where you've gone to yourself, oh my God, how am I here? Like, have you ever met someone that's like, wow?
Definitely. I think at the beginning, when I first moved to the Premier League, I was still that fan. I'd been a year before, I'd been at uni, like going, this is mad. I love this. This is, watching all the games. And then so all the players I'd watched on TV and the managers I was now working not with or was sometimes with. So my favourite player as a kid is the most random one ever, but it was Tim Howard, the Everton goalkeeper, and like part of the reason why I was an
American
fan. Yeah, American guy, really cool. Like played in United. Like I thought he was the shit. So before I joined Southampton, I emailed Everton because I knew the player Liaison there. I was like, can I do a day's work experience? He'd been there 20 years, as I'd said, and like I was like, can I just come up and shadow you? And he's like, yeah, of course, come up. And we're there, and he's like, right, one of the things we've got to do today is Tim Howard's got an appearance. I was like, Tim Howard? And he was like, yeah, Tim Howard. I was like, oh my God. Like, and I still think to this day, like, he's just like, he's a legend. And like, the reason I like him so much was that he was cool, but I remember I wrote fan mail to him, I don't know when I would have been 10, 12, whatever. And I forgot to put postage on the thing, and which I now realise probably wasn't him, but he paid for the postage and signed all my different items and sent them back. And I think that's cool. That's one moment now, because I used to deal with the fan mail that came into the club, would make sure that anyone who took the time to write in would get a hand-signed card back. And that's really important to me, because you never know how it can impact going forward. So I then was at this appearance, and Tim Howard was there, and I was just like, I've got to be professional, but like really excited. And they didn't ask him for a picture. I think I took a picture, and I did like one of those like, I'm going to take a picture of the scene, and then and I was like, wow. But I never spoke to him, never said anything, but it was like, I was like, wow, this is going to be really cool. And like, sure, you have like, I remember I bumped into Mourinho going around the corner, and I was like, oh, sorry. And then I was like, oh goodness, you know, like, but then by the time you get to like 5-6 years in, like, I think the most things that players want is to be treated like people.
Yeah, 100%.
And like, even referring to them by their first name, you know, I always find it, I always have to catch myself when you walk out of a stadium or a thing, and they're like, Noble. You're like, Noble? And you're like, oh, it's Mark. Or Nobes, I guess, if you're a friend. Yeah. And like, but for me, like, even just say like, you know, you talk to them with respect, but you're not like, oh my God, I remember that game when you did, you know, like, I would never do that because I'm not that football fan. And so rather to have that professional relationship where like, you can have a chat, but actually with someone to talk about politics, or you talk about, you know, world issues. Because a lot of the times the players are not very knowledgeable about world issues, but they're scared to ask because they're scared of looking stupid. Yeah. So we've had great conversation on general election in the UK. We've had conversations about players coming out. We've had questions about, you know, all politics, Black Lives Matter, racism, social media, and we'd just be like, let's have a coffee either on the bus or on the plane or when we're sitting, because a lot of the time it's sitting around, and just talk and anything you want to ask, we're going to be open and non-judgmental. So, you know, one of my proudest things, which is actually a really minor thing, is before I think it was the last general election, we had 4 players registered to vote because we'd had that conversation of saying, this is why it's important, and this is how it can affect you, and this is how the MPs work, and this is how your MP is picked, and there's 650 MPs and all this. And they're like, we always wondered, but we never wanted to ask. And like, that again is going to sound like, well, why is that one of your best achievements? But I think to get people involved, treat them as people, and get them involved in something bigger than themselves is a really nice thing. And you know, that's kind of little thing where it's not vital to the club's well-being, but it's actually a nice thing to build that relationship.
Yeah, that's a good story. I was going to interject before we
do
the quiz.
Go ahead.
You brought a bag of goodies.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
So I was just hoping to see what was inside them.
Right. I'm not sure which order to go in, and let's have a look. So I'm going to go least exciting, I think, for you guys, to most exciting, potentially. So this is one I wanted, and this is not actually a football shirt.
Is that a dart shirt?
No, this is when I was at uni, I interned on the Indianapolis 500.
Really?
Oh. And this was the Team Redline Extreme. You know, you can see very American. But this was my shirt from that, and I just thought it's nice to show like a bit of my memorabilia.
Yeah, where it came from.
That is cool.
Like, last name on the back like that. It was.
That is a seriously cool shirt as well.
Yeah, and it's so that was a cool experience I had as a kid. This is one that I bought. Ooh. This was a treat to myself from Classic Football Shirts.
Oh, well, they are a supplier.
There we go. Well, they didn't give me a discount on this one. I paid way too much money for it. But as a treat to myself, when I started my company, I bought myself a replica USA 94, the USA
cool.
shirt. And as you can see, that the sleeves on the replicas were reversed. They were on the wrong way round. So you see, like the stars should have gone.
They should be over here.
Yeah.
They should be that side.
So on the genuine shirts, they were the right way around, but on the ones they sold to fans, like this one, they're the wrong way.
Was
round.
that a mistake, or did they do it on purpose?
I don't know. I was 3 years old at the time, but anyway, I really liked this shirt, and I thought it was really cool. So that
reminds me of when they used to do the penalty shootout from the halfway line.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, the old MLS. Yeah. Then I got this. I like this one. This is a Yoshida match shirt.
Match shirt.
Japan versus Australia.
How did you get that?
Well, wait, Southampton.
Yeah, but it was. I was
so sometimes
were you at the game?
Sometimes
that's true. Actually,
they give me a shirt as like a thank you or something like that. So nice.
Oh, it's signed.
Yeah, it's signed. Yeah, cool. I don't know what. To Hugo. Very, very personal message.
The question is though, is it washed?
It's. Yeah, I don't. Well, it's
because you never want to risk the.
Well, that's
rubbing of the.
That's what I've got next. So it's in the plastic
because
it breaks.
Pele.
This is Graziano Pelle. Euro 20.
Sorry, I pronounced that completely.
16. His shirt from the Germany game, the semi-final.
And shorts.
And there's actually 2 pairs of shorts in there.
Oh, right.
But it absolutely reeks, which is why it's in the
the sweat.
Yeah, it's like muddy. You can see at the bottom it's muddy and sweaty.
Oh, that is so cool.
That is cool.
And this is the shirt. And do you remember how they went out of this tournament?
Wasn't it?
Penalty shootout. And Simone Zaza did the little
yeah.
step and then missed it. But Graziano, who I loved a bit, he said, I think it was Neuer in goal, and he goes like, I'm going to chip you, and then missed the target. So anyway, that's what that shirt.
That's always right.
Not quite a Perlo versus Joe Hart, was it?
If he'd scored it, he probably would have kept it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Offloading just bad memories.
This is cup final shirt. Southampton versus Man United in the EFL Cup final. It was the one-off white shirt that we wore.
Is it? Has he got a name on the back? Or is it just
Josh Sims. Who's,
nice.
Yeah, he's a great lad. So I thought that's quite a nice shirt, and I got it signed by everybody. And then finally, when this man went to Southampton, Southampton to Liverpool, he left me that on my desk. So
what did he
Oh,
say?
that's a nice touch, isn't
the
it?
best player liaison. Although he should have said player care, but you know,
He's to there.
Asterisk.
I wasn't going to correct him, but I thought that was really nice.
Oh, that's a nice personal touch, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
so a lot of the shirts I've got, they're signed to me, and I didn't ever want to again be that fan who was like, can I get shirts? Can I get shirts?
Yeah.
But a lot of times, they're around, or players say, well, can I get you something to say thank you about? Can I get a shirt from you? Because like I've got some shirts with players I've never worked with, and they don't mean anything to me because like. And N'Golo Kante, I've never even spoken to him, so like it's cool. I got a shirt, but like it doesn't mean anything. Whereas the ones that actually I've worked with the people the most, they're the ones that mean.
Well, it shows that the bond was real. If they go out of their way to actually leave you something on their way out.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw it in that Sims shirt.
Yeah.
This is so random, so I need to ask. It's not a size. It says fitted.
Yeah. So this is the match shirt.
So are the match shirts, are they fitted to the specific player, or do they get a small, medium, large?
Depends on the club. So actually, I think it's fit. I think it just means it's tight.
Okay.
It's a small. It is a small.
Okay.
Now some clubs they do measure the players.
Do they?
Individually. And we've had players who've had their match shirts tailored, so they'd be like a large, and then they take it to a tailor and get it pulled. Because obviously you don't want anything to be able to grab onto it.
Yeah.
So like someone like me, I like to wear loose shirts because I don't look good in tight shirts. But for them, they want it to be as tight as possible. So yeah.
Well, boots they get.
Boots
are don't they? Yeah.
You can buy pro level boots on like classic football shirts and stuff like that, because they are different to normal
boots.
players. Even the expensive like 260 version of the boots are not the pro level boots.
Yeah. And because they also have like orthotics and custom like
exactly.
So like it's very important.
So moving on to the quiz.
This is the fun part.
I didn't realize it's a study.
Yes, I mean, and also normally I've been coming up with the quizzes, so I know the answers. But the last couple of weeks, Jamie has been coming up with the quizzes, so I can actually take part.
Yeah, okay.
That's the leaderboard. There's potentially a few names you might recognise. Spencer, I think
is the highest, is it?
3 is the top. Yeah.
If you get more than one, you've beaten Ben Foster.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah,
that's sort
of. Is it football in general, or is it general knowledge, or is it?
It's football.
Okay, all right.
It's football.
Oh, we'll see.
Now this is for all of us.
Oh, we're doing it. No.
Oh yeah, okay. What?
Was it just for...
It's for you, but we'll play along on the side.
Oh,
we'll
okay,
just
fine.
answer after.
We'll answer.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're gonna see my answer and then agree with it, or disagree with it?
Or disagree. Yeah.
Especially how we run every time.
This is why none of them got high scores. Oh, I see how it is. Yeah.
Right. Question number 1.
Yeah.
Which Spaniard has the most Premier League appearances?
Blah, 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 blah.
Ooh. I've got a couple names.
I'm gonna go. I'm thinking either Azpilicueta or Fabregas.
Really?
See, I
was going to go Reina, but
Pepe Reina.
Yeah.
Could you throw David Silva into the mix?
I was also thinking him.
Yeah. See, on my first, I don't want to sway your answer.
Yeah.
I was going to lean towards Fabregas purely for the fact he was 16 when he made his
But
debut.
then he went to Barca for a while.
Yeah,
and then he
he's
came
not
back.
been in the Prem for a while.
I know.
Oh, David Silva's a good shout. But Azpilicueta's been there like 10, 11 years now, and he plays quite a lot.
That is true.
Goalkeeper lifetimes are quite high.
And Pepe Reina was at Villa as well.
Yeah. It's been.
Did he?
He
Oh
went
yeah,
to-
the
he
fact
went-
that he came
yeah.
back, didn't he? Yeah.
Who are you going to go for?
I think it's David Silva. I
Yeah,
think
to be fair, now you said David Silva, I'm
we're
like,
beating
no,
around the
I think
bush so
so I'm
much.
going to go David Silva, yeah.
The answer is... Says Fabregas. Yes! I can't believe it. But even at that early age, he pretty much played every single game. From
That's
like 16
crazy
onwards.
that
for years. He was
But he played such a high volume of games from so young, and came back to Chelsea.
He went full Pedri in the Premier League, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Oh God. Okay.
350.
Wow.
Oh wow! So there's 50. That's like a season and a half longer.
Well, we got top two.
So
collectively.
Fabregas.
Get that half point.
If my point does count, I would have got a point there,
there
but
we go.
it doesn't count. Anyway, it's 0 out of 1.
Great.
But it was close.
Yeah.
Question number
You can see
2.
why 3 is the top now.
Question number 3. Only 3 towns have played in the Premier League. Can you name all 3? For example, Luton Town.
Is Luton Town one of them?
No,
Okay.
that's an example. Can you name
Huddersfield Town,
Great shout.
Ipswich Town.
Huh.
I don't know. Town. Swindon Town. They were founding. I think it's Swindon. I think
For the Premier League?
I think they were in the first year. I think they were.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
92.
I'm going Ipswich, Huddersfield, and Swindon.
He could be bang on it.
That
That is unreal.
That's one of the top answers of the series,
Yeah,
I'd say.
yeah.
Is that 3 points?
It's only 1 point. It is 1 point.
He should get.
But I tell you what, that's a big 1 pointer.
It's
Yeah,
one
yeah.
with an asterisk.
A bold one.
1.1, just
Yeah.
in case I need to jump above someone. There we go. All right.
I tell you what, that was serious. That was.
Suck it, Ben Foster.
yeah, hold that L. This is a true or false.
Okay.
Rangers tried to sign Lionel Messi after Alex McLeish was alerted to his ability by playing Football Manager.
See, I think Alex McLeish was manager after Messi came to Barcelona, so I'm going to say false.
True or false? I'm gonna go.
sorry,
I'm gonna go with true because I think
Just
it's
to
a
be
bit
different.
Yeah.
You've got a 50-50 chance, haven't you?
I'm going to go false because you guessed it.
Come on. We're gonna need to hear it from the horse's mouth. We need McLeish evidently saying that?
Well, of course he's going to say that, isn't he?
Yeah. I was about to say a Scottish accent there, but I better stop that.
What did you say?
Better Scott that.
No. What did Alex McLeish say?
No, I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to try it.
Tried.
Another true or false?
Oh, no.
Former Germany international Tim Weiss
Yeah.
went on to become a professional cage fighter.
I
in
know
the UFC.
this is false. It's WWE.
Well, he's answered my question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What the?
Sorry, I mean you can.
Yeah.
What were you going to go for?
I was going to say I knew it was WWE as
Yes.
well, so I was actually going to say that, yeah. So,
Nice.
well done.
Thank
well
you.
done.
I did also know it was WWE. But next time you ruin an answer.
I got so excited. I was like, no, I know this one.
So 2 out of 4.
2 out of 4.
So-
how many is it left? Is there 5 questions?
5 questions. This is to tie up with Spencer, James, and Chris, and Alex, and Sharky.
Oh, big dog.
and
All right.
This is a Who Am I?
Oh, God.
I always suck at these as well.
Yeah.
Well, we'll stay quiet because I've obviously ruined one of the questions.
You stay
got it
quiet.
Right anyway. Yeah.
2 out of 4. I've played in South America, England, Italy, and China. I have a total of 308 goals in 746 games. I've played with Ronaldo, Messi, Buffon, Morata, to name a few. My only international honour came as a gold medal at the 2003 Olympics, suffering 3 Copa America heartbreak finals.
So my initial thought is Hulk,
Wow.
but was it England one of the countries he played in?
Yeah.
He has played in England.
Has Hulk played in England? I don't think he has.
I don't think he has.
Because it's China.
2003 Olympic gold medal.
So that's Brazil had a
Yeah.
period of winning those. So I think it's a Brazilian, but it's got to be a striker, isn't
played
it?
with Ronaldo as well. Yeah, 308 goals in 746
Okay,
games.
so it's his forward player.
2000. Oh yeah, Olympic. Yeah, 2004 Olympics. Huh?
Pato? No, he didn't.
He was too young then.
Too young then. Yeah.
Trying to think. Ronaldo,
Cristiano or
Cristiano,
Fat Ronaldo.
Cristiano, and Lionel Messi.
What do you mean?
And Messi's only.
So he's played with Messi. And
So he
Ronaldo.
might be Argentinian.
I thought he was. That was my immediate reaction.
So the Olympics was.
Oh, no.
2004 Olympics was in what, Athens? No.
Oh.
Yeah, it was Athens.
Oh, I know who it is.
Do you actually?
I think I know who it is.
Right.
I
Wait.
think I know who it is.
You seem very confident.
Yeah, I think I know who it is. Though I don't know if they played in China or South America. But
If they're from South America, they probably played in South America.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I don't know if they played in China. I'm going to guess, but I know they played in England and Italy.
England and Italy.
Oh, I think I've got the answer. I think I've got the answer.
They played with Ronaldo and Messi.
But then I'm like, where did they play with Ronaldo?
That might help. If they didn't play Ronaldo, that's probably not the answer.
Because Ronaldo's only played for, we spoke about 5 teams: Sporting, United, Juventus, Real Madrid, United. So 14. That's
I don't think this guy played with Ronaldo. Oh no. So I say who I was thinking of anyway.
Go on
then.
I was leaning towards Crespo.
I don't think he ever played with Ronaldo.
Yeah, that's why I'm sort of like a bit lost.
But because the Olympic is under 23s competition, so it's going to be someone who's young in 2004. That's still not many current players. That's what I'm leaning towards, like Hulk or Pato. But
God, this is a tough question.
I think we've got a guess, haven't we? Really.
You know what? I'm going to stick with my guns and just say Crespo. I don't know
it's
why.
It's going to be like bloody Joe Linton or something. It's just like,
Can you imagine?
Go on, if you're going to say a name.
I'm going to say Hulk, even though
Hulk.
I don't think it's right. But I'm
Crespo.
I'm going to say Lavezzi.
Oh,
that's so
basic.
Tevez.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's actually outrageously
Oh my God,
poor.
we're gonna look-
Argentina, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
That's
we
really
look
poor.
stupid.
Yeah, that's really
Everyone in the
stupid.
comments will be like,
Yeah,
"Here,
yeah.
there's someone right now screaming at their monitor, going, "Hey,
I'm screaming at the monitor. I'm not even like that. Yeah.
oh, how did we not get that?"
So I got 3 points for the 3 clubs.
I mean,
Plus the one that you gave me, so I got 4.
technically 4.
I reckon I've won that.
What the floor?
The clubs was a big answer to
Yeah,
be fair.
that was an impressive one.
That's Football Manager though, because you play, you go to the league, you see all. Yeah. So.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I was just about to say, so there might be quite a few people that have really enjoyed listening to Hugo.
Yeah.
I certainly have.
Hopefully, yeah.
And might even be inclined to be interested to apply to your course. So where could they find that?
Yeah, that's a great plug.
Thank you.
Playercaregroup.co.uk. Obviously on Instagram, Hugo Schechter, Player Care Group, Twitter, LinkedIn even.
Football Manager.
Football
Hugo
Manager.
Schechter.
I don't think they've removed me out of the game yet.
Really?
So I think I'm in.
You will live on.
Yeah, I live on. I look because I don't think they know the name of my replacement. But yeah. So yeah. Find me, Google Player Care. You can't miss me. Exactly.
We'll leave all the links in the description down below, of course.
Absolutely.
Thank
But yeah, mate, thank you so much for coming on.
Fascinating.
Before we end, we can't forget.
Oh yeah, we always do. So
Oh, God.
you have the honour, sir, of signing wherever you'd like on this
God.
prestigious.
So I do inside not to devalue it.
You did right.
Where's the pen, Jamie?
Wait, do we actually not have the Sharpie? Oh, this is horribly
So that's Player
unorganised.
Care 101. You've got to have
Yeah,
Sharpies.
this actually is.
I have so many Sharpies in my flat.
It's a whiteboard marker.
We'll do it afterwards. We'll do it
Oh, right, okay.
But
Is it not in the thing?
well, that's what I said. It's normally up here. This is basically we leave the shirt up here every
We
time.
need our own Hugo, really, don't we?
Yeah. Some people got proper signatures here.
Yeah.
Some people have.
Yeah, I write my name.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Easily, like checks aren't really a thing anymore, so you're not gonna have bank fraud or anything like that.
No, exactly. Normally I put like a 14 because that's normally my number.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool.
But I was clubless at the time, so
Yeah.
I can't be
It's an
doing
England
that.
shirt as well. So would you take 14 for England?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you would. Okay.
Really?
14 everywhere.
Is that Jordan Henderson's number?
Thierry Henry's number actually
For England?
Right, there we go.
for England as well.
Famous
Yeah.
English footballer.
Well, if I actually prefer England, you want 1 to 11, really, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd go- I'd go
take
number-
whatever. If
I'd
England
go-
call me up, I'll take whatever number.
I'd say I'm only playing if I get number 11.
Okay. Fine.
Sorry, but yeah, mate, thank you so much for coming on.
No, it's been brilliant.
as always,
Thank you
as I
so
said
much.
before, we'll leave all the links in the description down below if you want to go ahead and do a little bit more research yourself.
Yep.
Make sure you are subscribed, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and rate us 5-star on Spotify.
Yes, please.
And with that being said, we'll see you all very soon.
Yeah.
Bye bye.